Remember how I promised I made this as easy as possible? This looks a little weird, but it's going to look good in the end. So we're going to take these two pieces, we've turned them inside out after we sewed them, and we're going to line them up. Might need to put your fingers in there and kind of spread them out a little to line up. And we are going to stitch. Once again, if you don't have a serger, do a straight stitch and then a zigzag. Down like that. It's dirty, but it's going to be covered. So we're basically, I was trying to make it as easy as possible for hiding seams so you didn't have to do a lot of work. So this is what I came up with. And then we're going to take this piece right here. This is our long casing. And make sure that our seam, you can see how the seam is right here. We want that all to be on one side. So I'm just going to smooth this down and keep the seam. It doesn't have to be perfectly lined up. Just, you know, you don't want the seam swirling around the whole thing. And we're going to take this piece of Velcro, sorry, elastic, whatever I'm using here, and we're going to put it on touching the pretty side. So the seam is your ugly side, this is your pretty side. And you can see this doesn't line up to be perfectly exactly the same size. You may even have smaller elastic and it's still going to work. And what we're going to do is line that up, and we are going to run a stitch along that. And because this is a point of such stress, I mean, this is where it's getting pulled on, I'm going to do this twice. So that's doubly strong. And then we're going to take this and just make sure that the ugly seam part is where the ugly seam part is there. So boom, like this. So double check, ugly seam, and where the ugly stitches are. So this is something that's hidden by the child's hair. If you had really short hair, this is probably not the headband for you. If your hair is not going to cover it, then you have to do a little more work and hide your elastic inside of a headband. But this is made to be super easy. And we're doing it twice. So once more. So that right there, even if you didn't want a bow, there's your pennies headband instead of buying all those dollar headbands or more. I'm taking this narrow band and I've got each of the seams along the side and push flat, and I'm going to fold it over. And we're doing one more ugly seam. Once again, all of these are going to be hidden because it's the best pattern ever. And don't surge over your finger because there's a knife in there. Okay. Boom. And I keep cutting all my threads along the way. You can do them at the end if you want, but they just pile up on you really fast. Okay, this part's a little tricky, especially if you have thicker fabric. This is going to be easy, but we're going to take this, and it doesn't really matter how you fold it. I'm just going to fold it like in 3 there. It doesn't have to be perfectly lined up or anything. And then we're going to slide this over it. Ta-da! A little premature with my da-da. And da-da! Okay, this looks pretty ugly right now, but stay tuned here. We're going to turn this ugly seam towards whichever side you choose as the back, which I would go with the side that has that seam on it. And then we're going to take this and we are going to form it. So how I had those 3 points is really what looks pretty in a bow. So boom, 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 and you want to make sure that you are getting both of these, kind of having that 3 points inside of it. That. And this keeps creeping around. So just fidget with it until you think it's beautiful. I think that's pretty beautiful. And then we're going to hand sew, as I mentioned a second ago. So I've just got some white thread that I've doubled up and knotted, and the first thing we're going to do is we're going to do a stitch just to kind of keep this from moving. So you don't want to go all the way through. You want to kind of just keep it all on the other side. So I'll do one more in there. So don't go all the way through, kind of back it up a little, because you don't want to see this ugly stitch on the very center focal point of your hair bow. Okay, now it's time to make a decision. You can center this, like if you want the bow to be right at the center of the headband. So wherever this elastic is, that's the center back of your headband. So you could put it like right here if you want it to be front and center. I think that's kind of a younger look, so I'm going to offset it. And you could still, as long as you have the long hair, twist this around wherever you want it. You could have it on the left side of the head, the right side of the head, whatever. But what we're going to do is you can go all the way through the headband portion because you're not going to see it. And we're going to come up and we're going to do stitches. They don't have to be the most beautiful stitches in the world as long as you just make sure they're invisible. So don't come through anywhere. So you see I'm going a little bit behind where you would actually see. And I chose a thread color that even if you do see it, it matches the pattern. That was not an accident. Ho ho ho. And so just going all the way around. And we're going to basically mimic this little square. That's where we're going to be sewing. So I'm going to bend this out of the way so I can see. And this was going to be really easy because this will be completely hidden by the bow. So look how quickly I can go back and forth in this section. Need my carrot juice this morning. I'm not thinking clearly. Okay, and then we're turning to this side. And the same thing, we're just going to not quite go all the way through because we don't really want to see that. So you can see how much money you could save on these if you're just using scrap fabric that you have. These things, you know, scrap fabric, little piece of elastic that wasn't big enough to make anything else. That's my type of project because let's face it, there's no money in our budget to do these beautiful little things for my little girls that I want to do. Okay, and then we're going to turn this and do the same thing on this side. Now you could be really clever trying to hide your knot, but I don't really envision people spending a lot of time staring at this inside of my headband, and it's already kind of ugly. So I'm just going to tie the knot off right here. And I'm going to do another knot because I'm anal retentive and you don't want all your hard work unraveling on you. And then you could be done here, but I don't think that it keeps in shape very well. I've done this mainly in cotton, and you know, it's just kind of a big bow and it kind of just flops up, and I want it to kind of be positioned in a little more, so I'm going to push it not flat because I think that would pop, but we're going to push it in just a little bit, and we're just going to put some teeny stitch, so from the back here, and make sure you don't go all the way through where you see it. That to the back. So just a couple stitches to kind of keep it there. And if your kids are pulling on your headbands, that might be popping out. I don't know. So you can see that kind of keeps it down, whereas this one's just flopping. So it's your choice. You could not do this and then come back later if it annoys you not having done it. That way you'd have the choice. You can see how it goes both ways. But it just takes seconds. So do that same thing to the other side. Oop, I almost didn't double knot. I was so busy talking to you. Okay, do the same thing to the other side and I'll be right back. There you have it. Sorry, my kids are at school, so you'll have to do with the creepy doll head or wig head I have here. So you can see that's off-centered. The Velcro, I keep saying Velcro, the elastic lines up and back here, so even though that's a little ugly, you know, it's functional and it's hidden by hair, so you wouldn't even see that unless you have shorter hair. So anyway, this is totally resizable from babies up to adults. You would just lengthen or shorten your long headband piece to fit whatever you need it to. But there you go.